Welcome back to some of my videos about Adobe Animate. Today we're going to start talking a little bit about the drawing tools, the toolbar, and that's over here. This is our toolbar, and this first section here are selection tools. We'll come back to most of those, but one thing I want you to notice before we move on is each tool typically has a little triangle in the bottom right hand corner, and that typically tells you that there's another tool under there. So if you click and hold a tool down, you'll see that this one has two tools, the selection tool and the subselection tool. We'll come back when we have something to select, and I'll show you what the difference is between them. The other thing is I want you to notice that when you select the tool, you'll also see the key command right next to it. So here in the selection tool, the keyboard command is V on the keyboard. So this saves a lot of time, and you should really get into the habit of using your keyboard commands to switch between tools and to do actions. And in this case, when you want to move to the selection tool, you hit V on the keyboard and it'll switch you over to this tool. It's more of an advanced kind of thing, but it'll save you time, and if you can get in the habit, all the better. Okay, so selection tool with the subselection underneath, the free transform tool with the gradient transform underneath, so Q to get the free transform, the lasso tool, L on the keyboard, the fluid brush tool, Shift, which was that up arrow means, Shift B, the brush tool, the classic brush tool, which I love. It's one of my favorites. It's what helped sell me on this software, because I was an Illustrator person before I started using Adobe Animate, and it was called Flash back then. But I became a huge fan of Adobe Animate when I started to learn how to use the brush tool. So if you love doing cartoons, comics, cartoon characters, you might actually really love the brush tool. The eraser, the rectangle tool, and if you click and hold that down, you'll see that there's a bunch of tools under there. Okay, and we'll talk about how they work soon. And the line tool, N on the keyboard, I don't ask me to explain. The pen tool, which is the Bezier tool in Illustrator, text, paint bucket, which allows you to fill colors, eyedropper, which allows you to select colors, the asset warp tool, we'll talk about that some other time, the hand tool, which allows you to sort of pan around in your stage, and that's very handy. However, I don't use the tool for that. I just simply press the keyboard. The space bar, automatically allows you to switch. So if you're in the selection tool and you press the space bar, it allows you to move. So I don't even use that. And then the zoom in and zoom out. You can do that again, but I don't typically tend to. I'll just use my keyboard commands, Control plus, Control minus on a PC, Command plus, Command minus on a Mac. Okay, so Command or Control plus zooms in, Command minus, Control minus on a PC zooms out. Okay, so start getting to learn your keyboard commands and start getting to learn your tools very, very well. You need to move fast because in animation, time is everything. Animation is inherently very time consuming. So anything that you can do to save a little bit of time will make your job a lot easier. Okay, so the very first tool I'm going to talk to you about is the line tool. Click the line tool, you'll see that it's going to choose black as the stroke from the color well here. Okay, but you can also go over to your properties panel, because now as you can see, remember we talked about it in the workspace video, that the properties panel is dynamic and it switches depending on what you have selected. And in this case, I have the tool selected. So you can see my stroke is black. It is 100% transparent, or 100%, so it's not semi-transparent. The stroke size is already set to 30, but I can easily change that either by sliding this here, or I like to do it more precisely by typing in a number. So 20 points. My stroke style is normal. All right, I'm not going to choose anything else right now. Just keep it simple. My width is the same. I'm not going to mess with any of the dynamic kind of stuff. Okay, scaling is normal. You don't really need to change anything at this point. And so you see, as you can see, when you have this tool selected, you have the crosshairs, click, drag, and you get a line. Okay. Now, if you hold the Shift key, it constrains the line you draw to 45-degree increments. Just be aware. So if you want a perfectly straight line vertically, hold the Shift key. Okay. If you don't hold the Shift key, it allows you to kind of do whatever you want. There's the line tool. Okay. Cool thing about lines is how they interact. This is really important to get a handle on. You see that I switched back to the selection tool. Get a handle on, how lines and fills interact. Now, because we use the line tool, I wanted to show you how lines interact. And so I went back and I got my selection tool, V on the keyboard, and go and mouse over one of the lines you've drawn. Okay, mouse over the end. And you'll see that my cursor changed a little bit. The software is trying to tell me something, and it's telling me that this is an end point. Okay, and I can click and I can drag it. Now mouse over the center point of the line. Oh, what's this? I can click and drag it and pull it. Okay. So this is really great. I'll show you how this works and why it does this. But these tools were designed specifically to make drawing really fast and fluid, as opposed to if you're used to using something like Illustrator, which is a little bit more time consuming. It takes a little bit more time and is definitely more precise. However, the drawing tools here are a lot more fun. And so you can take an endpoint and attach it to another endpoint. You see that? See how it snapped? Okay. And you can turn snapping off by simply where is it? Here, let me expand my time. My tool's just a little bit, there's a couple of pieces missing. You can turn snapping off through this menu here. But we're not going to do that right now. Okay. So you can bend and move points. But one other really important thing to keep in mind is watch what happens when I have a line cross a line. Okay. Now, when lines cross, they cut. I don't know if you can see it, but I now have 4 separate lines that are attached to that one line. That's super important when it comes to like drawing in this application, is seeing how the lines, let me zoom in a little bit, how the lines and fills interact. And so lines and fills are a little bit quirky. It'll drive you nuts. If you're used to Illustrator and Photoshop, it'll drive you a little bit nuts to begin with. But once you get used to it, and once you start learning how to take advantage of this quirk, then you'll find that it might actually save you a lot of time. Again, like I said, this was one of the things that I absolutely adored about this software, was how the lines, once I figured out how to make lines and fills work to my advantage, I was able to do some really cool stuff. Okay, in the next video, we'll tackle the rest of the tools. I'm going to go a little bit faster, but just to give you a sense about how this all works. And what I'll do is I'll also share a longer tutorial video provided by Adobe that goes into extreme detail on each of the tools. I highly recommend you watch it because it's a really good resource. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Bye.